Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whenever you're tuning in. This is our penultimate college football season, in-season episode of Tailgate Trashtalk, brought to you by Backyard Sports. I got Bentley with me. We are on the eve of the college football playoff semifinals. How you doing, man?
Good. I'm just trying to stay warm, stay out of the snow. I'm good though. I'm good. How are you, man?
I'm doing good, other than the fact that my kids are now on 3 weeks of no school. Yeah, they had a full 2 weeks for Christmas and New Year, and here in Virginia, we kind of panic when we get snow. I was just having a conversation earlier with a gentleman walks his dogs in our neighborhood, and our kids like to go out and say hi. And one of my daughters mentioned, "Oh, my dad's from my parents are from New York, and they'd be going to school and this stuff," and it's true. So 7 inches of snow in Virginia isn't felt the same way as 7 inches of snow up in Buffalo. So they've literally been closed for like the week here. I'm not sure how many systems around us, school systems around us, have been closed, but our school system has been closed for about a week. So going on 3 weeks. Tomorrow's another snow day, and then Friday is a teacher work day, and good Lord, gotta get.
And then it's gonna snow again on Saturday,
and we're supposed to get a little more on Saturday, and we'll see about Monday. We gotta get these kids out of this damn house.
Tell them to go shovel. Go shovel snow.
I told them I'd walk them to school, but there's not gonna be anybody there. Hey, Dad, how's it going?
Howdy.
So we like I said, we're coming up on the college football semifinals here in the playoff. We've got 4 teams left standing, and Notre Dame takes on Penn State in the early game here. Notre Dame is a 1.5-point favorite. We're on opposite sides of this. I know we talked a little bit last week when the lines came out, but I still feel the same way. I think Vegas nailed both of these lines that we're going to talk about here. I do feel like this game is kind of a coin flip. It's really a clash of like similar styles. They both want to run the ball. They both want to control the line of scrimmage. They both want to lean on their defense and both of their front 4 and front 5 on either side of the line of scrimmage. And I think it's really just going to come down to who can make a play here or make a play there. And I look at this and I think I trust Drew Aller a little more than I trust Riley Leonard to make a play. But I'm so tight on this one. I really think it's just a coin flip. And honestly, this could be a 1-point loss for Penn State, and I win the wager and lose the pick of who's going to win. But I do think this comes down to like if it's a kick or it's a defensive stop at the end of this. I don't think either team's going to get away from the other one in this. I think this is going to be a very tight semifinal after we've had a lot of like blowout games. It's been kind of the topic of conversation. I just look at it and I believe Abdul Carter's going to play. He hasn't been ruled out, and they've been kind of cagey, I guess, about his status. If I had a guy that was that much of a potential game wrecker and I could maybe play some gamesmanship with the other team, I might do the same thing. I don't love what I read earlier from James Franklin, though. Why is he running his mouth? I know it was kind of a soft shit talk, if you will, but it was still don't give your opponent any sort of bulletin board material if you can avoid it, especially if you're James Franklin with your history against top 5 and top 10 teams. But I'm going to lean Penn State on this because I think Tyler Warren and Drew Aller, I think, can make a play or two throughout this game. And at the end of the day, give me Penn State by like a field goal. And maybe Notre Dame even has the ball with a chance to go down and tie it up. And Penn State's defense, I trust them. I trust both these teams in this game. I think the way that the styles are so similar, it's hard to really split hairs with either of these teams. And I think they're both going to try to play the same style. So like I said, I don't think we're going to see a blowout. I think we're going to see a kind of an old-fashioned knockdown, drag them out, run the ball, control the line of scrimmage, control the clock, 17-14 maybe, or 16-13, something like that. I think this game is gonna finish up.
So I agree with what you said about these teams wanting to play the same style of game, right? We just saw a Georgia team lose this Notre Dame team and gave up 90 passing yards to Riley Leonard, 46 of those to one player.
Yeah.
If you look at the Penn State receivers and you remove Tyler Warren from the equation, they're basically identical to what the Notre Dame receivers look like. So it's really, if you like I said, if you take out Tyler Warren, these teams are pretty much even across the board in terms of being able to run the ball. Their offensive line wants to lean on that defense. We saw that Notre Dame was able to do that successfully against Georgia. I'm going to give you a name to watch. He's not pick up again.
Never going to keep me down.
Yeah, never. There's a name in this game to keep an eye on. It's a name that I know that you have heard before. Casual college football fans probably do not know who this player is, and that's totally fine. His name is Xavier Watts.
Yeah.
He's the all-American, do-it-all. I think if you were probably to list the best safeties in the country, you start obviously with Caleb Downs for Ohio State, and then you go to Xavier Watts.
Yeah, and it's not a big gap either. He is
not that big.
Spectacular.
So Xavier Watts, I'm not a defensive coach, but if I had to guess what the defensive coaches at Notre Dame are telling him this week, they say, hey, you go out on that field and you find number 44, and you do not lose number 44.
Yeah.
44 stays in front of you at all times, and you tackle 44 at the line of scrimmage. As soon as he touches the ball, like, it doesn't matter. You have your hands on number 44, Tyler Warren, at all times in this game.
Yeah. He's going to be doing his best Derwin James impression this week.
Yes, 1,000%. Because
if Notre Dame is smart, that's what he's going to be doing. I
exactly.
agree with you 100%.
Exactly. If Notre Dame is smart, that's what they're doing. They're saying Xavier.
It almost sounds like a cartoon, like evil mad scientist who's like the villain in a cartoon. Xavier Watts is the bad guy.
Who's the bad guy in the Sonic series? The guy that has like the hot air balloon with the big goggles over his eyes.
Eggman.
Yeah. That's Eggman / Xavier Watts.
His name is Xavier Watts. He goes by Eggman.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, 1,000%. And that's just what I pictured in my mind right there.
Yeah.
So it like, if you're giving me these teams at a wash, if we're washing out Xavier Watts and we're washing out Tyler Warren, I think I lean heavily on Notre Dame at that point, because this Notre Dame offensive line throughout the entire season has been able to inflict their will upon opposing defenses, right? I mentioned the 90 passing yards that they had against Georgia. Didn't really matter because they were able to run the ball successfully, right?
Yeah.
Now, I understand there's a little bit of hesitancy because they got that turnover and they got the ball in like the low red, and then they returned the opening kickoff. They scored 17 points in 27 seconds, right? Like that. There's a little bit of luck involved there, right? But Georgia, for my money, is a better team than is Penn State, right? So they may not need as much of that luck to win this game as they needed it in. Is that the Sugar Bowl? What bowl was that? I don't remember.
Yeah, that was Sugar Bowl.
Yeah, because it got delayed.
The delayed one.
Yep. So I'm gonna go Notre Dame here. Full disclosure, my ticket for them to win the title is still alive. So
we're still cashing checks, baby.
Yes. If we come back on this show next week and Penn State has won this game, I will not be shocked. I have far less conviction in my pick for this game than I do in our next game.
I'm with you 100% on that.
Yeah.
This was literally like, I guess I could flip a coin and maybe make the decision. Tyler Warren was the big factor for me. Now, if Xavier Watts is able to neutralize him, a la what Derwin James can do to tight ends in the NFL, then I do think that, in a 16-13 game, Notre Dame probably it could come out on top. I also trust both kickers as well, right? Like these teams are almost like almost mirror images. And I know Mitch Jeter, right? We're gonna lean a little bit that way because of the connection to Columbia, but both kickers are solid, and I think both teams they feel like these two teams feel like they're very much like mirror images. I think it's a wash at almost every position with one exception. I do think that Drew Aller is a better thrower of the football than Riley Leonard.
100%.
However, Riley Leonard is a better runner of the football than Drew Aller, so he can create with his feet. Those sorts. So you got it basically the quarterback position is kind of, I think, where it's going to differentiate. And that was kind of where I leaned, is like, I think I trust Drew Aller and Tyler Warren to make a play more so than I trust Riley Leonard and any of the no-name folks that are on the Notre Dame side. Because you're absolutely right. Like, eliminate Tyler Warren, the playmakers on the outside, both of these teams, like, one, nobody really knows who they are, right? The casual fan certainly doesn't know who they are. And two, there's not really a difference maker on either team that I could point at and just be like, that guy's going to get you a 3rd and 7 when he needs to, right?
Yep.
So I agree with you completely. The one thing I want to ask you, how much does it impact your confidence in Notre Dame knowing that Jeremiah Love is playing, but he is coming off a game in which he was limited, he was nicked up, and there was some uncertainty in terms of his status coming into this game. Does that impact your confidence at all? I do know that they've got some weapons there to be able to run the ball with still, and that offensive line is great, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I think I could go get 40 yards for this team behind that offensive line.
Gary, you are an athlete. I'm not going to discredit your
it's still in there somewhere.
You're an athlete. Patrick Mahomes, also an athlete, right? Now, the difference between Patrick Mahomes and you is that when you are injured, you require rest and recuperation time. When Patrick Mahomes is injured, he goes into the locker room at the halftime of the Super Bowl, gets about 3 shots of Toradol, and comes back out in the second half and looks like Gumby and just bends all over the place.
Yep.
What I'm picturing going into this game is Jeremiah Love sitting in the training room in whatever stadium they're playing on, and he says, "Hey, where's my vitamin T?"
Yeah.
And the doctor comes out with a big old horse syringe of Toradol and goes, zoop! And Jeremiah Love goes, I feel like it's week 1 all over again. We're at that point in the season where like you play through injuries because there are 2 games left in your season, right?
Yep.
You take whatever painkiller, you do your warm up, you ice it, whatever you feel like you need to do. I guess you wouldn't ice it, you would go heat, but regardless, whatever you feel like you need to do to get yourself on that field, that's what you do. And if you have a head coach like Marcus Freeman, you're going to run through a brick wall for that man. Yeah. You just are. Yep. So I fully expect Jeremiah Love to be a go. Yeah. Now, I could be totally wrong. I have not the availability report. I guess it probably is out. I should Google that.
Yeah, he's expected to play.
Okay.
That's the last report I saw, is that they are expected to have Jeremiah Love for the game. So my assumption is they're planning about 30 minutes before kickoff. that horse trank is gonna. Yep.
Yeah. He's not gonna be feeling a thing.
And then we're gonna hit it again at halftime, and we're gonna get through this week.
They're gonna be standing in the huddle. And Lincoln, I almost called him Lincoln Riley. Riley Leonard is going to look at Jeremiah Love, and he's going to go left, and then the next play they're going to back, and he's going to go right. And it's going to be one of those 2.
Yeah.
All he has to do is remember whether it's left or right, and put his head down and just go.
Yeah, for sure. Robert makes a good point here. Like, unless we get rain or something like that, like, weather shouldn't be a factor in this game. It's going to be a decent game. However, even if it was like bad weather, both these teams I think are prepared for that, especially with that style. Yeah, Wilbur.
As long as he doesn't say uncle, we're good.
Yeah. All right, well, let's shift gears to the second game on our slate here. We have Ohio State taking on Texas. Ohio State's laying 6 points. Both of us are on that side of it. I tried to talk myself out of a 6-point spread in this game. I spent a considerable amount of time the last couple of days, like, what is it that Texas could do that could keep this game close enough where I'll take the 6 points and I think I'm going to be safe to cover. I just don't see that path, really. We talked a little bit about it last week. Like, Texas is going to have a defensive game where they just play out of their minds, I think, to keep this game close and maybe even pull off this upset. I just don't know that I trust Quinn Ewers to go out there and have the game of his life against this Ohio State defense. So the only path I see for Texas really to cover or to beat the spread with the 6-point spread and maybe even pull off the upset is like 20 to 14, and the defense has a defensive score. And they really they have something that they've cooked up to keep these NFL wide receivers at bay, get pressure on Will Howard and get him out of his element, because he's been fucking spectacular in these first 2 games of the playoff that they've played. So it really does come down to that. And if you can really get them off of their mark, because I think you put it perfectly that like Chip Kelly has decided and understood that with the weapons they have on the outside with JJ and Carnell and Emeka, like those are three fantastic NFL caliber wide receivers. We're going to pass to set up the run, and we're going to let Judkins and Henderson just hit home runs when they can, right? When they get their opportunities, because the defense is just playing that soft shell coverage to cover down on those phenomenal athletes on the outside. So it's going to come down to that Texas secondary, I believe. And if they can scheme up, or even, I mean, I don't expect them to be able to beat them in like one-on-one situations, but if they can, that feels like the path for Texas in this game. Now, all that being said, I'm laying the 6 points with Ohio State because I just don't see that happening. Will Howard's been on a mission. He's been otherworldly the last 2 weeks, especially after that egg that he absolutely laid against Michigan. Ohio State across the board laid that egg against Michigan, but he was really bad in that game. And early in the season, we both had some questions. Is he going to be good enough to kind of keep up with what they've got on the offensive side of the ball? I think he's answered those questions at the most crucial time of the season here in these last 2 weeks in the playoff, especially in that like masterclass he put on against Oregon in the first half last week, where they were just up and down the field and nobody could cover JJ Smith. I hate to say that I could see this game getting out of hand, a la like Texas just getting dog walked earlier in the year against Georgia. What the hell is that?
I don't know.
I think my phone is listening.
Serious.
Anyway, yeah, I got noise in the background. Threw me off there for a moment. Sorry. We're doing this live in case you were wondering.
Yeah.
I just don't know, and I fear that this is the one game that I look at and I say like Ohio State could get away from Texas early. And when you can pin your ears back against Ewers and company, I think you can rattle him. And there's a potential for this game to get ugly in Ohio State's favor.
So the most obvious play here is just lay the points with Ohio State, right?
Yeah.
I've been on them all year. I think you've jumped on the bandwagon with me. Talked about how coming into the first round matchup against Tennessee, they're on a warpath. I've said all the things there are to say about Ohio State, right? Best player in the country in JJ Smith, best defense. The coaching staff is phenomenal. You know, people shit on Ryan Day because he loses Michigan. All right, sweet. He's in the playoff almost every year. They're going to win a national title. Like, I got it. Chip Kelly, NFL playoff coach. You know, they're good. We got it. They're the best. The easiest way that Texas comes out and wins this game, three names. Anthony Hill, Colin Simmons, and Quinn Ewers.
Yep.
Anthony Hill and Colin Simmons have 16 and a half sacks combined this season. And Quinn Ewers, he will make 3 throws a game. Like that touchdown pass in overtime to Golden on 4th and goal, right? He makes 3 passes a game. We're like, holy shit, this guy's the truth. And then the 3 passes after,
you're like, what is he fucking doing?
Yeah, the interception he threw in the 4th quarter, where it was a duck into double coverage. You're like, is he
really starting in Austin?
Yeah, is that Arch Manning? Is that? Oh no, that's Quinn. Okay, all right, cool. So the most obvious way, right, is if Quinn Ewers comes out and just rekindles the Quinn Ewers of the first 2 weeks of the season.
Yeah.
Where he's throwing darts, he's putting it on a rope, he's hitting receivers in stride. If Marcus Golden has like a huge game, somehow beats Caleb Downs, which sounds silly to even say out loud. Yeah. If he beats him down the field, like
is Isaiah Bond going to get off of the milk carton?
I don't think so. Not against this defense.
No.
You know, Jack Sawyer could become very familiar with his old teammate, Quinn Ewers. The last teammate he has that beat Michigan, but not while at Ohio State. Not a sore subject for them, maybe. But if Quinn Ewers comes out and plays like the Quinn Ewers that we have seen him play like in previous Yeah, like even last year when they went to
Yeah.
the semifinal, in the playoff last season. If he plays like that, Quinn Ewers against this defense, somehow they have a chance to at least cover, if not win this game, because they are. What if I said all season long, Gary? When Texas plays football games, the most impressive, most talented unit on the field is that Texas defense, and that's been the case all season long until they gave up 510 yards to Arizona State last week.
Yeah.
510 yards to a freshman quarterback and Sam Levitt without their number one receiver.
Right.
So I mentioned the two linebackers, right? Colin Simmons and Anthony Hill. 16 and a half sacks between the two of them. Those guys have to play like their hair is on fucking fire.
Yeah.
Yep. You just do. Those are the two headliners. They have guys all over the field. Obviously, the Texas defense is nasty. I promise you it's a very good, very, very talented group of kids out there on the field. But boy, did they not feel like it last week in the second half against Arizona State. And if that is the Texas defense that comes out and plays against this Ohio State team, they are, like you said, going to get blown out in this game to get out of hand. You said the possibility is there. You didn't predict. You said the possibility is there.
Yeah.
I feel very similarly. I think the possibility is definitely there that this game gets out of hand. Now, what is the one thing that Ryan Day has not had in the last couple of weeks since the Michigan game? Pressure.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They've been playing with house money. You lose a game to Michigan, you miss out on the Big Ten championship game, whatever. They come out.
He's also not really faced adversity in those games either.
Right? So you come out, you boat race the first quarters against Tennessee and Oregon, and it's all it's just all easy sledding from there. Yeah. This Texas team, they were up big, and then they gave up a lead and had to go to double overtime. They've been tested a little bit.
Yep.
There is a chance that Ryan Day, everybody's on Ohio State, to include the both of us. They are now the hunter and hunted, right? They were the hunters coming into the first couple rounds.
Yep.
They played an SEC program that had 25,000 fans in their stadium.
Yeah.
And then they played a team they lost to already this season, the number one team in the country.
Yeah.
In the Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
On the West Coast.
Yeah.
And now everybody is on the Ohio State bandwagon. The pressure, I feel like, has kind of shifted back to this Ohio State program. Yeah. And everybody is on to them, and the jig might be up. Not in my opinion. I don't think that's the case. I think they're the best team in the country, and they're going to win the national title.
Yeah.
But there is a possibility of that, right? Like, you could talk me into both outcomes here. I'm predicting that Ohio State is going to win by like 2 touchdowns probably.
Yeah.
But you could show me a world where Quinn Ewers kind of rekindles some things, that defensive pass rush for Texas gets going a little bit, gets this. I even hesitate to call it a patchwork offensive line for Ohio State at this point because they've been just playing so incredibly well.
Yeah.
But like if the run game's not going, if they're not throwing the ball to JJ Smith, there are things that could go both directions. I think Ohio State's going to win, but like there is an outcome where Texas wins this game because they are immensely talented as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think if Texas is able to punch them in the mouth when they come out early too, that could really change things where things start to tighten up. As you mentioned, they haven't faced pressure, haven't really faced adversity in game. They've been able to really they disappeared on Tennessee early, disappeared on Oregon early, and they were able to coast in both of those games. I don't know if Texas has recovered from the Quinn Ewers fumble yet. Like that's what worries me because it felt like the moment that happened in that game, Texas they just got airtight, and Sark was coaching scared from that point forward. Like a lot of the decision making was very, very confounding in that game. And you and I talked about it during the game. Like why are they making these decisions that they're making? They were just being real counterintuitive with a lot of things, not running the ball in situations where they should have been running the ball, not passing the ball where they should have been. And it felt very tight. And a lot of the play selection was just really, really goofy. And they were very, very fortunate to survive Arizona State in a game in which it looked like they were going to win by 50. About 4 minutes into that game, I'm like, holy shit, the fucking route is on.
Yeah.
And then Ewers fumbles and are like, whoa, not so fast, my friend.
Yeah.
And suddenly Arizona State had a little bit of momentum, and it took a little while for them to get going, but Texas never recovered, I think was the biggest thing about that game. And it allowed Arizona State to overcome some of the issues that Sam Levitt was having early in that game. It allowed them to overcome Scatabo throwing up on himself on the sideline. And they were able to really get it going in the second half. And truthfully, if they'd have stayed with, or if they had called that targeting, like Arizona State might win that game in regulation. Now, you and I talked about the targeting call last week. I'm glad they didn't call it targeting, but they easily could have.
Sure.
According to the college rules, but they didn't. But like Texas legitimately like escaped in that game. And I just don't like, have they recovered yet? Yeah, they've had, a full week to kind of talk about what went wrong, but that was a very, very scared Texas team. And if they are anything like that, Ohio State's going to beat the shit out of them, I think.
Yeah.
So really, like you said, things have to go right for Texas, and they've got to wash whatever happened against Arizona State. They've got to wash that clean and just move on and just play your game. And yeah, if yours is good, if the defense is able to create pressure, and they're able to get some plays from those wide receivers, and maybe Isaiah Bond comes off the milk carton. I mean, maybe or something along. They got to get somebody, because I don't think you can just rely on Molden the whole game. Or Golden the whole game and expect him, because they can easily just roll coverage with that really, really talented secondary. But yeah, I just feel like that path is just so narrow for Texas, just because of the way Ohio State's playing right now, that there's almost no room for error for Texas in this game.
Do you remember the second overtime in the Arizona State Texas game where they scored on one play? Yeah, it's hard to
get yours on some ayahuasca.
Yeah. So the second overtime, they scored on the first play from scrimmage. They hit Gunnar Helm on that 25-yard touchdown pass,
Yes.
Which, by the way, we didn't talk about this on the show last week. I don't think they showed that live on television. I think they were coming out of a timeout.
I think we got a replay of it.
Yeah. We saw the celebration, and I was like,
I think you're right.
Wait, what the fuck?
It was happened? Very, very strange, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that it was cut. The actual play was covered up by a commercial.
A commercial, yeah. We didn't talk about that, but yeah, I think you're absolutely right. That it's almost like NASCAR when they go to commercial and there's an accident, and you come back and there's smoke in the air, and
you're like, why are we under yellow flag? I don't. What happened? Oh, there's a crash in turn 3.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah. No, so phenomenal play call by Sark, right? Yeah. Play action, roll out, Gunner crosses pattern, and then runs like kind of a crossing wheel route, just up to the corner. Phenomenal play call. I can't picture in my head Caleb Downs biting on that. Yeah. Like I see Gunner in my mind. I see play action to the right, roll out left. Gunner is crossing formation and ready to the corner, and then there's Caleb Downs.
Flash of red.
Yeah, like boom, there's Caleb. Like bringing up the pass, doing whatever. Like that's a play that again, second overtime. It's quit. They scored the 2, or they kick the extra point, and then they immediately get the ball back. And there's like no change in possession, nothing really. They just line the ball back up, and the defense has to adjust like kind of on the fly. I just don't see this Ohio State defense getting confused by that. They have like 7 NFL players that are going to get drafted on this defense starting for them. Like, and then they have even more coming off the bench. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I just don't envision. Sark is a phenomenal play caller. Don't get me wrong. Like that offense has been, despite some of the hiccups they've had, that offense has primarily been very good all season long. But like. The way that this defense for Ohio State is playing right now, and you and I have fallen into the trap as well of just laying it on thick about this offense. I mean, you talked about how well Will Howard is playing. I've been singing the praises of Jeremiah Smith, like the 2-headed running back, everything. But like, what's winning these games for Ohio State is this defense, man. Yeah. They're stifling teams, and I just don't know that. Given the second half of that game that we watched from Texas, and you mentioned it, the scared play calling, running and passing downs, passing on running downs, and vice versa. I just don't know that Texas is going to be able to put up enough points to hang with, especially if the defense doesn't get it figured out after that performance they had against Arizona State.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with you. And that's like I said, the last couple of days, I've kind of been thinking like, what is the path? If I'm going to try to like be the smart guy, right? Play the sharp play. And I'm going to take Texas. Like how do I justify making that pick, right? How can I get to somewhere where I can believe that Texas can do it? And I agree. I just don't, it doesn't feel like that path is very clear. And a lot of things are going to have to bounce in Texas' favor in order for them to even just cover the 6, really. Because I just think right now, the way these two teams are playing too, like look at them in a vacuum, Ohio State's just playing better football right now, like way better football. They're beating the shit out of teams. They stifled a very good Tennessee run game. They handled a very, very good Tennessee pass rush. Like we talked about it before the game. It was the reason that I took Tennessee to win the game is because of that front four that could just get after you, and they couldn't do it at all against Ohio State. Not to mention Oregon, who has a very good pass rush themselves and a very good secondary, had no answers for the Ohio State offense. We talked about it last week where Dylan Gabriel had only been sacked, I believe it was like 6 or 8 times coming into the game. And they got him 6 times in this game alone. This Ohio State team, I just think they are on a warpath. They are on a mission. And I couldn't find the logical, cohesive argument to make for Texas. And I still think that way. And you said 2 scores. I'm with you, like a 34-20 type of game, something like that. Like, it does feel like there's a pretty distinct gap between these two teams, especially like looking at how both of them are playing as of January 8th, 2025. Like it feels like kind of night and day after that Arizona State game, especially for Texas.
Yeah, it could be ugly. I really hope not. I would really prefer a close game. Well, preferably a 7-point game to be specific.
Yeah.
But something within 1 score would be nice.
Yeah, give me 7. Give me 30-23.
I'm good with that. For selfish reasons, obviously.
Yeah.
Notre Dame blowout. Love it. Send fucking James Franklin back to the house. I'm cool with that. At least make this game competitive, please.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, hey, we let's see. I think we've had 5 games since 4 games, well, including the FCS championship since. We didn't get there with North Texas, Texas State off the board. We love the big overs, but Texas State just early on settled for, I think it was 3 field goals on their first 3 drives. And that ended up really being the issue. If you told me last week that we were going to get 28 points from North Texas against Texas State, I'd have thought we've been clear. I thought Texas State easily could have gotten into the 40s in this game. Didn't get there. Short on that over. But anything else that caught your eye off? I want to shout out UB, by the way. The Buffs, the Bulls, knocked off Liberty. They had a great season, 9-win season. Upstate New York, relevant fucking football. Yeah, let's go, buddy. We got Syracuse and Buffalo both playing good football this year. So shout out back home.
that was gonna be my shout out. Was gonna be UB, dude. The Buffs. For selfish reasons, obviously their head coach Pete Lembo, first 9-win season, I believe, in school history.
Yes.
From the Shane Beamer coaching tree.
Yep.
So, all roads
lead back to Columbia.
But no, he's a phenomenal coach. He was a really good coach for South Carolina when he was there, and they went over and took over that program and got it turned around and headed in the right direction. So arrow up, Buffalo.
Arrow up.
Shout out to them. I just have to imagine that a bowl win is so much sweeter when it's in the Bahamas.
I can't, it's that in the Hawaii Bowl and those ones. Oh man,
it's got to be so good
as a college kid too. It's got
to be phenomenal.
You're in a resort destination on the NCAA and your college's dollar. We're gonna have some fun and we're gonna play some football.
Unfortunately for them, they do have to go back to Buffalo.
Yeah.
So
it's
not
cold
great
there right now too.
Not ideal.
Yeah, they're under some snow and it's cold. When they got home, it was pretty cold.
Yep. Minnesota rode the boats.
Yeah.
They got a nice win over
Virginia Tech.
Who really they just flustered down the stretch of the season. Virginia Tech. This is a team that almost beat Miami. Came down to an instant replay at the end of the game.
Yep.
They have one of the most Minnesota. Has one of the most exciting young players in college football. His name is Coy Perch.
Yep.
Plays safety for them. He's a true freshman. That kid is phenomenal. Yeah. Expect to see him in the transfer portal, I would assume.
Probably heading to Ohio State or something.
Well, I mean, he sure would. He'd look phenomenal in Garnet. You know what I'm saying?
Garnet.
Yeah, we just lost Our safety, Nick Imanwari, he's going to the NFL draft, probably a first-round pick.
Yeah.
DBU, it is what it is. It's fine. JC Horn, all-pro, it's whatever. It's casual.
Gilmore, DPOY.
Yeah, like it is what it is, Gary. We all know what it is. I'm here to talk about Coy Perch, and you just keep bringing up South Carolina. That's my job. But no, shout out to whatever their fucking coach's name that he shaves his head, doesn't wear a hat, and wears the tie on the sideline for every game. What is that guy's name?
Name's eluding me right now.
Hold on, I can tell you.
Central Michigan, row the boat.
PJ Fleck.
PJ
Fleck, yes. Yep. PJ Fleck.
Yeah.
Shout out to them.
Also, shout out BK, DJ BK Midnight, and the FCS crew here. North Dakota State knocks off previously undefeated Montana State for the FCS championship down in Frisco.
Yep.
35-32.
Did you hear the stat about the amount of coaches they've had?
No.
And so
it's absurd, though. It's like, yeah.
Someone could fact check me on this, but this is how I remember hearing it. In the last 10 years, they've won 6 national titles, and I've had 4 head coaches.
Yeah. Yeah. They just keep churning them out. Like they win a national title, and they go get a job at the FBS level.
Yep. And then I think is it their quarterback? It's either their quarterback or Montana State quarterback is transferring to Iowa next year.
Yeah, it might be North Dakota State's quarterback.
I believe it is.
That's transferring, yeah.
North Dakota State.
They just keep winning, and they just keep churning out. I mean, they put talent in the NFL.
Yeah.
Guys like Christian Watson and Jordan Love and Carson Wentz, I mean, before, and they just continue to put guys in the NFL.
North Dakota State safety transferring to Texas Tech. Also, shout out DJ BK Midnight.
Yeah.
Guns up there.
And I misspoke. Trey Lance, not Jordan Love. Trey
Lance, right.
Trey Lance went to North Dakota State after Wentz and Easton Stick.
Yeah.
They put a lot of guys in the NFL for a FCS program.
Tucker Kraft.
Tucker Kraft, I think, went to North Dakota State as well.
Yep. Tight end, Green Bay.
Yep.
Just moved down the street, honestly.
Yeah, really.
He's like, I like the cold weather. I'm just going to stay up north.
Take my snowshoes to Lambeau.
Yeah.
Oh, all right, but well, hey, listen. Any kind of news you wanna discuss here? I know a little lighter week in terms of games, but I know that, like I mentioned earlier, I was looking for some needle moving transfer news, and Tyler Van Dyke backing up Jennings next year is not necessarily the needle moving news we were looking for. It is a little bit quiet time because a lot of the transfer portal movement happens pretty early in the portal season. We've talked about why, right? Registering for courses and getting enrolled at your next destination. But anything you want to bring up that's not necessarily on the board?
Did you and I have a Bill Belichick discussion on this show? I don't remember.
We briefly discussed it, but it looks like we might not talk about him on this show next year. We might talk about him on the Blitz next year.
I don't think so.
You don't think so? It sounds like Brady's pretty serious about pursuing him.
I don't think Bill would do that. I think Bill's good where he's at.
Okay.
Here's let me lay out the case for Bill to not go back to the NFL.
Sure.
He needs 16 wins for the title. I'm going to use ballpark numbers because I think that's what it is.
I think it's about 16 to pass Shula.
Do you know who's right behind him? Number 2.
Is it?
Or I guess number 3. Yeah.
Is it Andy Reid that's right behind him?
It is Andy Reid. Do you know how many games behind Bill Belichick Andy Reid is?
No.
He's like 25.
Yeah.
He's like 25 games off.
Yeah.
Andy Reid, as a 28-year-old Patrick Mahomes.
28 or 29.
Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
Bill, if Bill goes back to the NFL, is presumably going to go to a program that doesn't have an established quarterback.
Yep.
They're going to be in a building situation. He's going to win 4 games for the next 2 seasons and be working with a rookie quarterback to try to chase Don Shula's record.
Yeah.
Like, what is the incentive for him to go back to the NFL? He's already said he hates the politics of it, and he doesn't like Roger Goodell and all those guys at whatever Park Place Avenue in New York. Like, I don't think Bill Belichick wants to coach in the NFL unless it's a ready-made position. Like if the Chargers had hired him last season, that I could have understood, right?
Sure.
But I just don't like. I think Bill wants to be where he's at. He's just because he's got his son on staff. He brought down his boy to be the general manager, and I think he's going to coach. I don't know, 3 years, and then be like, all right, Steve, this is your program now. Yeah, like my kid is going to be the head coach now, and whatever he chooses to do is fine with him.
I don't hate that logic. I have a hard time reconciling the fire that Bill has as an NFL coach and him staying at the collegiate level, but he kind of has called the shots, right, with UNC. Now, if that changes, obviously that could change the whole scenario if UNC reneges on some of the things that they promised him. But no, I like your logic. I feel like Bill Belichick is an NFL coach, and there's a reason that post-June $1 million buyout thing was included. But I like your logic, though. I do agree with you that those aspects do make sense, right? He has also been kind of vocal about how much he doesn't like some of the things that go on at the NFL level as well. I was actually, my first thought, I was kind of confounded by it because I wouldn't have thought that Brady would want to pursue Bill Belichick after I know they've made amends since, but it was a little bit sour when Brady left New England. And it wasn't great for a couple of years, but maybe they've mended fences and whatnot. And I know that there has been reporting that Brady does intend to talk to Belichick one-on-one about possibly coming to Vegas, but maybe Bill really does like what he's got laid out in front of him down at UNC. I know he does love the fact that he's going to be able to put Steven in a position to be a head coach. I know that was his intention when they were in New England, but Steven was 5 years away from being ready to be an NFL head coach, probably. And the lack of success that they had right at the end in New England didn't help as a coordinator / strength coach / funny face maker on national television. It wasn't winning him brownie points with general managers around the league that would want to bring him in as a coach. So listen, I'm all for it. I think it'll be exciting, him coaching at UNC. I love the parallel of every chance he gets, he talks about Lawrence Taylor because, Lawrence Taylor is probably the best defensive player that's ever lived. But also, like, he just loves him because he coached him at New York and all that. And he talks about him every opportunity he gets to bring up Lawrence Taylor. And, oh, by the way, Lawrence Taylor is a UNC alum. So I think I like that parallel. It's pretty neat. I don't know how much it means in the grand scheme. I just think it's a pretty neat tidbit. But I like your logic, though. I'd love to see him at the college level, too, because I think his demeanor and his interview tactics will be really funny when an ACC media personality puts a microphone in front of him and asks him a question, and he just gives them, we're on to Virginia.
Yeah, I tend to think he's going to go away from that version of coaching.
Maybe.
Like, he's already kind of let the cat out of the bag this year, being on TV and doing all the appearances
he's been really good on TV too.
Exactly. So that, I think that's probably more of who he is. He's obviously he's never going to be Lane Kiffin. He's not going to answer. He's not going to do press conferences like that. But I think it will be less of what we saw in New England and more of what we've seen on TV.
Maybe have a little fun, Bill.
Also,
and he's got a young girlfriend, so
given Bill's personal life, never
get him into all the frat parties.
Never underestimate a man's desire to be surrounded by talented individuals. And they have them in plethora at Chapel Hill. I can attest to that.
Yeah. There's a talented student body
yes, there is.
At UNC Chapel Hill.
Yes, there is. It's unfortunate they suck at basketball, but the student body is talented.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, all right, bud. Well, appreciate you.
Yeah.
We've got one more of these to do prior to the finals, and then we'll have our wrap up for the season, and then stay tuned out there. We are wargaming some ideas in terms of off-season content so that we don't lose track of y'all in the off-season and expect you to just jump right back on in August. But we are winding down, and it's exciting. We've got 4 teams left in the playoff. Next week, we'll know who our contenders for the national championship are. But for Bentley and the rest of the folks here at Backyard Sports, this has been another episode of Tailgate Trash Talk, brought to you by Backyard Sports. We are